Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my shop here in Apache Junction, Arizona. I'm still here, and while the shop might look a little bit more empty than it normally does, I'm still quite busy. But after a full 2 weeks of traveling around the country doing inspections and deliveries and even a solar power grid system testing, I've decided to give myself a break and take the day off to work on my ongoing project of my 2001 Beaver Patriot Thunder, especially while the weather is still pretty nice here before summer really hits. For those that don't know, this is my 2001 Beaver Patriot Thunder. I've called it the best RV ever built, and I put a orientation, or I put a walkthrough video on it when I first purchased it. And in that walkthrough video, or that orientation, there were two really important things that I didn't like about it. I pointed out one deficiency that I knew was bad with it when I first got it, and it's this toilet right there on my list of things to do. Now, the last few things that are on my list of needed repairs, one really that should be addressed, going to be with this toilet right here. Now, I will warn you guys, you may not want to watch this part. I can describe it to you. When the previous owner went ahead and I guess either switched out the toilet or did some repairs to the toilet, he used an oversized foam residential wax seal for a residential toilet, not for an RV toilet where the toilet mounts to the ground. I did note it at the time of my inspection, but let's see if we can't take a look inside. So I'm going to open up the toilet right here. Now, that oversized foam seal creates a ledge that will trap items on it, so I do need to take that out. Now, I did pick up the right floor seal a while ago to put on it, but now that I've used this RV for a little bit, I've also come to the conclusion that I don't really like this toilet. Now, the Traveler toilet at the time was one of the top of the line toilets that you could get because it was still porcelain. At the time, plastic toilets were still very common in 2001. It's a decent toilet. You lift up on the pedal, it'll add water to the bowl, push down on it, that'll flush it. Mine's set up with a sprayer, which it is nice to have a sprayer. But after using this for a while, I've noticed it's a little bit loose. I'm a little concerned about the spacer that's down here. And I'm also not a huge fan of the short bowls. I like a more residential sized toilet. So yes, we're going to be doing another toilet video. I think this will be the 4th or 5th one on the channel. But I'm going to try to change it up a little bit because in some information that might surprise a lot of you guys, I'm kind of cheap. And I recently did a job for a customer who had a new toilet that they didn't like, and they wanted a different style. So this has been installed, but it was never been used. So it is a clean toilet. And I got it at a great price because it's a parchment or an off-white cream color, which I think will work fine for me, as cream, off-white, and parchment is a fairly common color I'm seeing in my RV. This is not bright white. This is more of a colonial white, is what the industry would have called it in 2001. You'll see it in the countertop right there. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand what some people are saying, gross, a used toilet, but it hasn't been used, okay? It is still brand new. It hasn't been used. And I got it at a really good price, free, but even still. But this was the toilet I wanted anyways. Normally these go for about $250 to about $300 depending on the price you get at it. So even though it's not the color I wanted, it's the price I like. I wanted this toilet because it's a porcelain bowl on it. It does have the elongated residential seat and footprint, but also the base of it's pretty wide. Now, this is a plastic base. There's some O-rings right there that hold the base on in the back. They're just like hair ties that clip around the back right there. But if you look at the base of this one, it's actually pretty substantial, and so it should get rid of any rocking I might be having. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, geez, James, how many toilet videos are you going to do? Well, we're going to try to do a little bit different on this one because if you guys remember, I am cheap. So I'm going to be changing out the toilet right there. Another thing that I don't really like about this at all that was really, really common up until about 10 years ago was a carpet over these plumbing covers in the bathroom area. You can see this one's been bleached and stained because obviously you're going to have toilet brushes and cleaners to clean the toilet. And this was just really standard. I'm sure you guys are like me, you find this to be a little bit gross. And I came up with a plan to fix it because I am cheap. And then I figured, since I'm doing this one and that one, I might as well do the one next to the shower right there too, because again, you get out of the shower, that's gonna get wet. It's very difficult to clean, vacuum this, and it just gets like a dusty shelf right there. It's a little bit unsanitary and unhygienic. And like I said, it kind of grosses me out. I don't know if it grosses you guys out, but it grosses me out. So what we're going to try to do in this video is replace the toilet. I'm a little bit concerned that the footprint's a little bit wider and may not fit right there. But what we're also going to do is try to replace these carpeted covers for plumbing. I mean, I understand this one's probably drain plumbing and water plumbing and some wire runs. I'm a little bit curious why that's there. If we can eliminate it or not. And then that's also probably plumbing and wire run. So I thought that might be interesting to do all this together because I'm taking the toilet out anyways. What all started this again was they used the wrong floor flange on this toilet, and it's been on my list of things to do, but hasn't been high on the list because it still kind of works. So today we're going to continue the modernization and upgrading to my 2001 Beaver Patriot Thunder and upgrade the toilet and then these surround features right there to make them a little bit more modern, a little bit more hygienic, and easy to clean. And we're going to do it on the cheap, or at least as cheap as I possibly can. Okay, so obviously the first thing we have to do is turn the water pump off. We'll do that there. I'm going to go ahead and release the pressure right there. I'm going to go ahead and just release the pressure right there too. I'll do my other drain there. All right, so hopefully the pipe should be pretty low on water now. Sure like those lights. Now taking out these toilets is pretty straightforward and simple. I think a ratcheting wrench works the best. But on a traveler like this, there's going to be a collar around the base of it, held in by a screw. Undo that screw. And now we can pull this off. Now, a fairly common problem on these travelers is the flapper seal or the bowl base seal. It's just two pieces of rubber. And if you're going to do that, there's a stainless steel band right there that you would release. It's on the back side. Whole bowl comes off at that point. You can put a new seal on and clean up your flapper pretty good. But we're not doing that today. I do have gloves on. We're going to go ahead and take the entire toilet out. I'm guessing it's 7/16. Yes. Sorry that you guys are seeing this. That's half the reason why I want to do this too, is to kind of clean up this in here. So let me get all the bolts out. This one has 4 bolts. The plumbing floor flange on this toilet is the same one you'll have in a residential toilet. And there's the last one. Now the toilet is loose from the base, but we still have to get the plumbing off of it, and the plumbing's going to be behind this right here. Now you know this is a high quality RV because they gave me a shut-off valve, which is nice, but I still can't get access to the swivel nut behind here. So to get to that, we'll just have to take these 2 screws off the plastic foot pedal here, and now the whole thing will just slide off the metal bracket. Alright, so with that out of the way, now we can get to the water valve. Now this looks like a newer water valve, because this is another common failure point on these Sealand Travelers, is the water valve will leak. It's a fairly easy job to do. Just take the pedal cover off like I showed before. You take out those 2 bolts or screws, slide the whole thing out, put the new one in. Pretty easy, straightforward. And it's just going to be the connections back here. Now because this ledge is in the way, it's difficult for me to get a pair of pliers on here. So I'm just going to take this line off that goes up to the actual flush mechanism. Well, it goes to the vacuum breaker behind that ledge right there. And then I'll be able to get a pair of pliers on there really easily. Loosen up that hose clamp. Alright, now that's out of the way, we can just kind of pry off on this hose. It's a vinyl hose, or a poly hose. So it does like to conform a little bit to the barb fitting that's on there. And if I were worried about saving it, I may not be quite so aggressive. And of course that kind of points out why I don't like having carpet in the bathroom area, because now we have water. It's clean water, but... Alright, now this is a flare-it fittings. They're not as common as they used to be. They were the top of the line PEX fittings at the time. It had these nuts right there that you would screw the PEX down to the fitting with. But if you guys have watched my toilet videos before, you know we're probably not going to be keeping this rigid PEX hooked up to the toilet because it's not even going to be at the right place anyways for the new toilet. Alright, so that's done. So now the toilet is loose, we can just go ahead and lift this up and out. Okay, we'll put that for now. We might need that later. Now, my apologies for whoever's a little bit squeamish or grossed out by things that are very natural. We're going to take a look at that floor flange now. So if you don't want to see that part, you might want to skip ahead. So now you can see that foam floor flange that the previous owner used. This is for residential. This should be pushed down into the base right there. And I did not like this, so you can see it's been causing some problems, which I'm a little bit concerned about because on a Beaver coach, even though I love Beaver coach, it's also not uncommon for the floor flange to get rotten to the floor. Alright, so it's not much cleaner looking. So now I'm equally concerned that I'm going to have a bigger project than I expected to have. Because the new toilet's only going to be using 2 bolts and not 4, and these wouldn't line up where they need to be. So let me see what I can do. Okay, so this is what I've discovered. This little spacer doesn't need to be there. So at least that was from sealing. So I do want this thing to be close to the floor. And then this floor flange, the top of it does swivel, so that we can line it up to where we need it to be. So that's at least some good news. I think what we need is this base to be pretty flush with the toilet, or with the tile right here. That way the base of the toilet does come in contact with the tile. We don't want this floating. It to be resting on just this little spacer right there, because that won't engage the molded plastic underneath there. We don't want a rocking toilet, we already have that. Now let me just say that I am sorry for how gross this is turning into. It is a toilet job, so that's just part of doing the toilet work. I am taking my time, I am cleaning up, I'm not making a mess, I'm not doing anything that in your mind you think I'm doing. So we are staying safe, okay? So let me update you on what we need to do. I'm going to try to salvage this flange here. Now they have these bolts that are sticking out. I think I can lift up, and there's enough flex in the pipe, the 3-inch pipe down to the tank to get those out okay. If I can't, I can always just notch this flange out right there. It's just plastic. I can pull those out. Ideally, I don't want to cut this flange off if I don't have to. When I said that it's not uncommon for beavers to have a little bit of rotten floor, there is a plywood collar right here as a spacer, and I think that's what was loose. It's not, I think it was definitely loose, and because this seal wasn't sealing very well, as we can actually see on the base right here, there was some moisture getting on top of that wood. Luckily, I don't think it got really bad. So I'm going to try to extract those bolts and cut out that plywood spacer ring. Hopefully now you can kind of see that spacer ring right in there. And then once that's out of the way, we should be able to screw this down. This flange will be pretty level with the tile itself. And another thing I'm kind of excited about, it looks like maybe this ledge right there won't be necessary to keep. I think maybe they're just hiding the plumbing under there. I don't know yet until... Okay, came up with a different plan. These bolts are a little bit too long. They're hitting right there. I don't want to do anything crazy. So what I'm going to do, because I just noticed that looks like this is a little bit deformed. That's where I would normally try to hook up a toilet to. But because we already have these other 2 bolts in there, I can just spin this around to where the toilet's supposed to be. And we'll just get rid of these that had all sorts of spacers on them anyways. That's not so good. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my oscillating multi-tool here. Just going to put a wood cutting blade on it. And what I'm going to do is just cut off that plywood ring right there. Just put a slit in it so I can pull it off and then just screw the flange back down. Just want to make sure I don't use a tool on the plastic or cut the pipe that's inside there either. Okay, I think that should have done it. Now I can pry this part off. All right. I mean, it's still pretty solid. It's definitely gotten wet, but you can see it's not rotten, which is half the battle, I guess. So that's nice. Gotta get to clean up the next part. Alright, so now it may not come out in the video very well, but this back wall is a little bit bowed out at the back right there. So I want to just make sure I have these where I want them to be, because the whole thing does swivel. So I'm going to screw this back down, and in order to get it where I want it to be and make it square, I'm going to just go off the cabinet toe kick area right there. So we're at 31 and 5/16, and then 31 and about 5/16. So with that mapped out, now you just push this back down, screw it back down, and have the screws right here. Now really the next step is I need to clean that flange up pretty well, because that's going to be the sealing surface, and we want to make sure that it does seal. So I have these brush attachments that I generally use to scrub a roof, even though I think they're for tires. So I'll just go ahead and get my stinky rag out of there so it doesn't get snagged up in it. That was only there to keep the smell from the black tank from coming up. I don't need to go full bore on this. It's pretty good. It's a little bit more aggressive with some cutting knife here to get some of the more solid bits out. Alright, that should be a lot better. So now that we've invested all this time into this toilet flange, and I think we have it sitting about the right height, make sure the toilet is going to fit. Just go ahead and grab this. Alright, so there it is. I think it looks pretty good. It's like a halfway step in between the round edge and the residential elongated bowl. And this is parchment, and that's parchment, so it matches pretty good too. Alright, so all that work, and now I'm going to take it all apart again. Because the next step I want to do is worry about these ledges with the toilet out of the way. So I want to take these ledges off. A lot of the times you can take the Phillips bit of a screw gun and run along the carpet edge right there looking for the screws that are holding it in. I don't know if you guys heard it hit metal there. I'm just going to pull that out. And if you can't find it, I'll just get a pair of pliers and pull the carpet back a little bit until you expose that screw. Alright, so that does have to be there. Rats. Okay. But now we know. This is going to be the vent stack for one of the tanks, probably the black tank, and then this is likely the drain for the washer and dryer over there. Okay, so this does have to be there. We'll go ahead and take this one off the same way, but first I'm going to get the door out of the way. Just have to loosen that up, and then loosen that up. Now we can just pull this door out of the way. I'm just going to try to find what's holding it down. Well, it looks like the answer was just a couple staples there. Alright, so let me tell you what the plan is. Remember what I said, I'm cheap? Well, I'm cheap. All modern RVs will probably still have some aspect of this. Sometimes it'll be wooden, sometimes it'll be laminate, sometimes it'll be a solid surface coring material, and sometimes it'll be like the floor tile that just wraps up the edge to cover up the plumbing or any access that needs to be had. For me, I don't think wood's a great location in a wet location. It is easier to wipe down, easier to keep clean, and I'm never going to find these floor tiles. That pretty much leaves solid surface Corian countertop as a material I want to work with. The problem is, and that's why I'm cheap, is that to find that off-white Corian that's in the RV, I'd have to probably buy an entire sheet of it from a countertop manufacturer. In the East Valley of Phoenix here, we have basically a thrift store for building materials. They call it Stardust Building Supplies. How it works is that if you're tearing down a house or office or anything, you can bring it, the crew will come in, they'll rip out anything salvageable, and they'll bring it to Stardust Building Supply and puts it for sale. It's a really good deal, and you can be amazed at the things you can find there for really on the cheap, including some absolutely gorgeous granite and stone countertops. Entire set of cabinetries for an entire set of custom-built cabinetry to put wherever you'd like. But in this instance, I was just looking for a chunk of Corian, and I think I found something that might work, and it was only $5. So even if I don't use it, it's a good cutting board if I need it to be a cutting board. Also, one of my favorite hobbies is to go thrifting. So I like going to Goodwill and finding treasures, if you will. So what I have the habit of doing when I'm thrifting, I'm always looking for things that I might be able to use in an RV. And I did find a chunk of Corian solid surface countertop material for about $20, and I've been holding on to it for just such an occasion. And here's that material right here. It's a fairly inoffensive brown speckle material. It won't match at all what's in there. Sometimes the best patches or repairs are ones that look intentional, like an intentional decision. So this carpet really looks pretty good with that countertop material. Just in case, here it is right there. And there you can see, $5. It's a pretty good chunk of Corian solid surface countertop material to work with. This stuff handles just like normal wood. You can do everything that you would to normal plywood with it, with the exception of you can't put a screw through it. It will crack it if you put a screw into it. So my plan is not to reinvent the wheel. I'll just take the carpet off. I'll cut down a few strips of this Corian material, and I'm just going to basically laminate it on top. So this becomes a ledge, easy to wipe down. I'll probably put the top a little bit longer so I can create a little bullnose edge on it just with a router, because I'm not trying to glue this together. I'm not trying to make a custom countertop. I'm just trying to put something that'll be easier to clean, a little bit more durable, and a little bit more stain resistant than carpet. In fairness, this is over 20 years old and not too bad looking. Alright, so this won't be an entire how-to build plumbing cover for your RV, since I just want to show you guys what is possible. Fairly inexpensive and easy with some of the most basic tools you can have. Alright, even though the factory decided not to grout right there, I theoretically have about 4 inches. So the factory had it about 4 inches right there. But we can probably go back to 3 inches on a reveal right there, rather than the 4.5 right there, because we do have the thickness of this material that I'm going to put over the top. Now I could just make the whole box out of that Corian material, but it is fairly long and this doesn't have the kind of strength that this would have, both if you kick it or put heavy things on top of it. So having the substrate underneath it, it'll just be the easier way of doing it. So this is about a 1/2 inch thick, and I wanted to have about 3 inches, so I think if I take this down to 3.5 wide, that'll fill the gap perfectly. Right, about 3.5 right there. Alright, so that'll go over there, so we cut that back a little bit. All I'm going to do is rip a piece of that material right here, and then I'll go a little bit longer on the top so that that extends out, creates a ledge. I'll just put a bullnose router edge on it, and we'll screw I'll screw this down into the wood here, and then we'll just glue down the Corian with some silicone. Really shouldn't be much to it, hopefully. But it should go without saying, on Corian countertop material, there is a downside where they have all the printing and then the imperfections and little pockets, and then the finished side is this side. The nice thing about this is, I know it's dirty, but you can sand it, and of course you can even polish this if you were so inclined to do. I have a pretty bad edge right there, so I'm just going to go ahead and rip that edge off and then start from there and start cutting. Okay, with that ripped down, hopefully this should be about the right height. I'm going to give it about a 16th to an 1/8 inch clearance, so that if I need to put a bead of sealant underneath, I can do that. I just don't want it to sit proud up here. Alright, so I'll just cut it to length, about 41.5. Alright, I have a way of transposing numbers, so yeah, 41.5. Alright, so off camera I just got ahead and ripped this piece of wood down right there. I'm just going to go ahead and screw this in. This will give me a nice place to screw down the top. Okay, so I already have that ledge right there. So now I get this back on top. Now I can screw that straight down into the face of that. Into the face of that. There. Now it's real secured. And then this is just going to go right there. I mean, could this be simpler? So that'll just get glued down, but I'm not ready to do that part yet. The last thing I want to do is put a actual countertop on top, or a ledge on top. We use the same material right here. That white stuff I got, I think it clashed. It was just too much going on. This is very close to the dark edge on the color band of the countertop, along with the sink right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this about 4 3/8. So I'm going to actually extend that out so that it has a ledge. It'll hide this entire seam right here. I'm going to go ahead and do the round over first, or the bullnose edge, so I have the entire mass of the countertop that's still there that I don't have to worry about. I think I might have something right here that'll work. Alright, I'll just do a test run with this one, and we'll see if it's going to work out the way I want it to. Well, after a few test passes, I decided I didn't like that one bit, quite a bit. And I'm going to go with this bit right here, which I think will work out pretty well, because it comes up with a nice bead on top of that round over. I don't know if it's OG, and it will mimic the top of the countertop on here anyway, so it'll look just like the top, just not the bottom with that thinner edge. Alright, I'd say I'm pretty pleased with that profile. Let's go ahead and ease some of the sharp edges just a little bit. Alright, now I just need to take this down to 4, and I think I'm going to go with 4 3/8. I just need to cut it to 41 3/4. It's just a little bit longer than the wall. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and put this in real time here. I think overall I'm very pleased with the way that looks in comparison to the carpet over there. It looks substantial. I know it looks dirty, but I don't need to scribe it and make a perfect corner on it, because this needs to be removable for the next guy that's working on it. And while there is a little bit of a gap right there, I can easily hide that gap just by moving it that way. That looks pretty good. And so the reveal on top makes a little bit of a ledge. It hides any sort of unevenness in the wall, and it makes it look very intentional. And we went ahead and gained about an inch of more leg room inside this RV too. So really the last thing I have to do before I install this now is just clean it up, because it was filthy. It's been sitting in my shop for, I don't know, 6 years. And of course, I'm going to have some scratches on it from all that sitting around. And I'm not looking for a polished stone look. And while I could sand it with like some 600 grit sandpaper, move up to finer and finer grits, I'm just going to go ahead and use some steel wool. And that will get rid of most of the scratches and give it a decent finish on it. And if I decide I want to make it better down the road, I can always do that too. Since after all, this is going to be a ledge that we're going to put stuff on, this will be an edge that'll get kicked quite a bit. So it just needs to be good looking. And we don't want to look great because the rest of the coach is 20 some odd years old, so it's got to look pretty good, right? So really the last thing I have to do is install the countertop material. And to do that, I'm just going to use some 100% silicone sealant. This stuff is very good adhesive, and it's reversible too. So I'm just going to put a couple blobs on there, put the wall on, put a couple more blobs on top. We'll put the countertop on, or the ledge on. If it needs to be pried off, it wouldn't be too difficult to do with just a putty knife underneath, because again, this needs to be removable. I'm normally the next guy, so I want to make sure I'm doing something nice for the next guy. All right, so we're just going to do a couple of blobs. Just gonna go ahead and push it on now. We don't really need to put any tape on there. The silicone do a great job holding it. Again, just put that down. Slide it into place. And just like that, we're good, except for we got a little bit of sealant right there. Oh my goodness, that's so much nicer looking. Now I'll just get some grout and I'll fill in this down the road. But that's it, guys. That's one down. I got two more to do. One for the shower, and then of course one over here to cover that. That's going to be the most complicated one. But I can do that off camera. Let me get those built, and then we will come back and put the toilet back in. There's one more thing I do want to show you before it's all done and we have the big reveal. I know it's a messy work area for me right now, but I do want to point out that all my tools that I've used have all been 110 tools, and you'll notice there's been no generator running in the background. My off-grid shop, because if you remember, I did plug this into my solar generator right here, and we're still at 100% charge because we've been charging the entire time we've been using it. The panels are still up on the roof here. They're pretty filthy, but they're doing their job. I can't complain. So I have been doing some long-term testing on my Mango Power E. So far, it's been doing pretty well. Connectivity issues, yes. A few bugs, yes. But I even have my lights inside still. And charging those batteries still. I'm even charging my cordless drill batteries. It's a very, very, very nice not to have that droning sound of a generator as I'm working. Or wasting fuel, especially because it's going to be my fuel in that sense. Or doing the maintenance on it. So far that system has been working out pretty well for me. Let me get those other ones built, and I'm excited to get this done too. Alright, that one's in now. So I have that ledge, mind the mess over here. And I did get the shower ledge over there too, and I did bring it back another 2 or 3 inches, well, about 2 inches there. I do need to grout right there and there. Right here, I need to put some grout in right there, but I can do that later. That's for future James. But it's nice too, because that means I got a little bit extra floor space in here, and a little extra floor space in there, And now when I put the garbage can on that ledge, I don't have to worry about the carpet getting dirty. So I'm pretty pleased with the way all this turned out. And again, this was $20 worth of material, an $8 tube of silicone, and just my time now. So now I just need to put the toilet in. Now if you guys watched any of my videos, you know that I'm not going to keep the rigid PEX in right here. And in my assortment of parts yet to install on my RV, I have my supply hose that I've been using on all of my videos. I just get these because most manufacturers don't give you a shut-off valve to the toilet. Very easy to have a shut-off valve now. It's good for 1/2-inch PEX, and it's a flexible hose, so I don't have to worry about hard plumbing it. It'll reduce lots of problems too. Because on the old toilet, the Sealand Traveler, the water valve was on this side. If we take a look at our new toilet, it's 100% on this side. But this just comes from the big box store. They're calling it a one-piece supply. Like I said, it's just a push-on. And let's see. There's your part number for everybody that wants to know. Now, I do want it somewhat accessible. I did cut a hole in right there through the solid surface countertop material. I think we can just cut it right about there. It is important that you use a sharp tubing cutter. You don't want to have a burr on that edge. It just pushes on that easily. Wow. Alright, so now it's just going to be putting the toilet in. But before we do that, the old toilet has a sprayer on it. And we might as well steal this one off and put it on the new one, even though the new one doesn't have a sprayer. But I can tell you guys a secret. It's set up for one. Alright, so let's get that off. Hopefully now we can just pull this off the vacuum breaker. Now, vacuum breaker is another common failure point on a Sealand Traveler. That goes into the china or the porcelain bowl. Just fits in there. It's a vacuum breaker. This is there for hygienic purposes. So as we can imagine, water leaves the water valve there, comes up into the bowl. The inside of the bowl may not be completely sanitary, and so water would be at this point, and through capillary action we might get some gross stuff that would make its way back into the supply line here, down to the supply valve here, and then into your water system. So this vacuum breaker is supposed to eliminate the concerns about any sort of backflow. But at any rate, that's a very common failure point too on these toilets. But if we look on the back of this toilet, it goes up to a very similar vacuum breaker, except it's held in with some spring clips. It has this on the bottom of it. It's got a barbed fitting, right? But it's capped off. So all we have to do is cut that cap off, and then we would have upgraded our sprayless toilet to a spray toilet. And we just go ahead and feed this line on, slide the hose clamp on there, and tighten it up. Now, I don't always use a sprayer, but it is sure nice to have one. I have a mount on the wall, and we had a sprayer anyways. Now we just grab those seals that I had. I only need one of them. I'll just put that on underneath. Alright, I got this nice flexible hose. I can just hook it up to the toilet already. Simple. Let's get my stinky rag out of there. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put the toilet in place where it needs to go. Okay, now I'm just going to be putting the nut on. This part's pretty straightforward. Now, I won't lie to you guys and tell you that that nut was easy to get to. I had to go around from the back side here, but I could get to it. Go ahead and put my sprayer back on the hook that was on the wall. Go ahead, turn everything off there. We can turn the water pump on. Okay, go ahead and check and make sure there's no leaks. That PEX. I don't see any leak at the floor. So now let's go ahead and turn on the water. Okay. pretty straight looking. Got the pedal there. Halfway down, add the water. Let's see if the sprayer works. Sprayer works. So then we can just go ahead and flush. Simple. Very easy. I mean, it's my toilet. I feel like I can do the obligatory sit down on it, and yeah, doesn't wobble anymore. Yeah, it's a little bit more comfortable for me too. I like this. I also think it'd be pretty hard pressed to think that those weren't originally there, or there, or there. Let me get this whole mess cleaned up and we'll talk about everything. Okay, just gotta put this on now. Just got these O-rings to put on. They're just little rubber bands that clip on the back. And yeah, that was very close right there. Bam. Alright, so you can see the lower band is on, the valve is on. And I think we installed another good looking toilet here. And I think the bone, parchment, off-white, colonial white, whatever you want to call that color, really matches the countertop pretty well. It's a far enough distance from this band right there that I don't think most people would actually even recognize that that's the wrong color. And it's a complementary color to both the tile and the wood and the toilet. So I think it worked out perfectly for $20. And I definitely can say the same thing about that ledge over there. I feel a lot better. This is something that's been on my list of things to do for well over a year now. And while I say it was a little bit more work than I planned on it being, we still got this done in less than a day. Well, I did promise that it wouldn't take too many specialized tools other than a table saw. I did end up using a router. You didn't have to use a router. Could have just sanded it. I had an orbital sander. I used that one too. And I did end up having to use my miter box. But again, these are pretty standard tools. Maybe the only thing that wasn't standard was I did end up cutting that ledge too short, and I had to cut a new piece of plywood. So I did use a brad nail. But other than that, other than making a big mess over here, it was pretty basic tools that I used. I don't know if you guys noticed, I did pick this one up from Goodwill too a while ago. That's a good find. I'm very proud of that find too. Well, I hope that wasn't a little too gross for everybody. Now, this was a job I know I needed to do since I did the initial inspection for Premium Coach Group all those years ago. I could see the seal inside the toilet. Didn't look very good. It was having some issues, and the toilet was a little bit loose. So it's been on my short list of things to do. I know years later I still finally did it. But there's all those other things I wanted to do at the same time, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep the toilet or change the toilet, and I finally came up with the perfect toilet. But while I doubt that anybody has the exact same problem I'm going to have when it comes to their toilet on their RV, I hope I gave some people some ideas of how you could do it fairly inexpensively. So I'm really pleased with the way this turned out. The Thetford Style Plus, I like the flesh on it, I like the bowl, and I like everything about it, even the pedal. You don't have to lift up and balance on one foot to add water. Just go halfway down with it. But I think that's it for today, guys. I'll come out and finish up the grout when I'm good and ready to do it. But thanks a lot for joining me on these adventures. I got a lot more things planned to do on this 2001 Beaver Patriot Thunder. Hopefully I'll get to them at some point. But thanks a lot for watching, guys. Bye. They didn't require any real tightening these things up. Alright, now we just put that nut on. Okay. Still at 100%. This mango's worked out pretty well for me, guys. Is at 61%, so I might as well unplug the solar on this. Try to get this one charged back up again. Here it goes up. And that's afternoon sun now. It's a little after 3. Go ahead and turn off this one now. And I lose my lights. Bye.